Hi, this is Rik Emmett of Triumph and also Rik Emmett the poet. And you're listening to Brent Jensen, and this is No Sleep Till Sudbury.
Hey, this is Brent Jensen. You're listening to No Sleep Till Sudbury, the show where we talk about the music that makes your skin vibrate. This show is brought to you by Pariah Pickups, handcrafting otherworldly guitar pickups down in Detroit. Check them out at pariahpickups.com. To support the No Sleep Till Sudbury show on Patreon, visit patreon.com/Brent Jensen Music. All right, he's back. The legendary Rik Emmett is my guest for the next 2 weeks, and we recorded the shows at Rik's home, as we always do. But here's what's new. Rik has written a book of poetry, now available on ECW Press, called Reinvention. And Rik and I go through it in detail. Have a listen. Well, here I am, back.
Brent, you're back.
I'm so glad to be back. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're in a different room now.
We are. This is a fantastic room.
I moved out of the basement and into the back library, you know.
One thing that caught my eye was the Allied Forces gold record on the wall.
I know, that's my favorite of all of them. Like, at a certain point in the house that we lived in for like 38 years in Mississauga, I had an entranceway off the garage where all the albums, and there must have been, I don't know, 20 some odd, 22, something like that.
Yeah.
And they were all hanging on this wall that kind of was a 2-story down into the basement where my studio was kind of wall. And the thing that was great about them was you couldn't see them from any outside window.
Oh, good.
Which is another story because I once had guys come up and when we first brought Shannon home from the hospital, and we just got home, and Jeanette was breastfeeding her, sitting in a rocker upstairs, and these, fans came. And I didn't have any fences around my house or anything at the time. And they just came right up on my property, smoking joints and walking around on my deck and looking in all the windows and going, "Oh, look, hey, I can see a guitar." And I was going, "Oh, no." And we're up on the second floor, and you're feeling like, "Oh, God, I'm trapped in my own house.
Sure.
This is horrible." And so eventually these, chowderheads went away. And then I said, okay, like we got to get, fences built. And so then we had a security company come in. The guy said, "Your house is a weird one. You got a lot of basement windows. You got a lot of stairways up to second floor, lofts and things." He says, "You can't really do a good security system. Plus, you got cats." And he goes, "So motion sensors, you know what I suggest? You build big fences and then get signs that say 'Beware of dog,' and then go and get a really big dog." And so that's exactly what we did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got a German Shepherd. And he was great. He was an unbelievably great dog. And installed, obviously, a thing on the front door, which was like,
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, the Emmets don't live here anymore. You could go on the intercom and go, "I'm sorry, he's moved away. Goodbye." So, that was that story. So why did we get into that? Oh, yeah. So the wall with you couldn't have the gold records hanging where anybody could see them. So then we moved here, and then it was like, I don't, gold records. So I said to my kids, "You pick one, you pick two if you like, and just promise me that you'll go and have a shrine somewhere in your house for your old dad with a gold record." And I let him pick a guitar too from the guitar collection. I said,
Wow.
"Pick a guitar and pick a gold record, and then have a shrine somewhere in your house for your old dad." So they all did that. But that record that you're admiring, that's kind of my favorite. That was the first American gold record for Allied Forces, and I always kind of liked that one.
RCA looks great.
Yeah. It's my favorite album.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
I think it hangs together pretty good. Organically, sort of, the band was coming into its own, finding its own feet, and at the Metalworks studio, and so that had Magic and Fight, and
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Some pretty good, pretty good
the
tunes.
Emotion. Yeah. No, there's no question. Yeah. Okay. So I am here to talk to you today about your new book. Now, this is a poetry book. This is something very new for you. Now, this is a fascinating, courageous, stirring glimpse, in my opinion, into how Rik Emmett sees the world in 2021. And that, you know, this isn't a rock star vanity project. It's, in fact, a very intimate and emotionally heavy look at the world through your eyes. You had told me earlier that this book of poetry helped you become yourself amidst a series of commitments that you were bound to over the course of your life. And so, like, you know, Reinvention is a poignant reflection on your life in the sense that it provides a measure of proportion. And I really like this about the book in terms of who you really are beyond just being, you know, the frontman of Triumph, for example. So it establishes proper proportion for me beyond Triumph. You know, when you describe yourself as things like a rocket in cartoon costumes. I love that line.
Yeah. Well, wow. Thanks. Jeez. Wow.
Yeah. But just such a wonderful read. And you know, we talked about the creative process like this is quite different from the creative process of songwriting.
Yes.
So what was it like to take that leap into writing a book of poetry?
It wasn't such a huge leap in the sense that I had always been at heart a writer, you know, and even though songwriting was kind of the thing that eventually I go, oh, this is the writing that I do. I wrote poems when I was in high school, and in my notebooks from time to time, I'd have an idea and I would write things, and it wasn't going to be, lyrics are, you're really bound by the form that you must, you know, strike the same phrasing. You've got to have the rhymes in the right places, all of that stuff for lyrics. Whereas with poetry, you're given a lot more latitude. You know, there's a creatively you can do different things, and you can. It's not to say that it's not the same discipline in order to come up with something that you consider to be good. You're not as tied to architecture. And that's not to say that poetry doesn't have its own architecture. It does. You could write, you know, sonnets or haikus or whatever. Those things are very strict. In this case, when I just gave myself permission, I didn't worry too much about that. I really just worried about whether or not it felt right to me as it was coming out of my head and I was going down on the page, and as I was reading it out into the air, and I was going, no, this works. It's okay. You know, this is fine. But as far as the leap goes, part of it is I was at a point, and I'd retired from the road.
Yeah.
And I had decided, well, you know, I'm not retiring from creativity. I'm just retiring from, you know, packing my bag and going to the airport and getting the immigration visas. And, you know, like, that's what I'm tired of. You know, I'm tired of in and out of hotels every night and lugging stuff in rental cars and all of that. So, but I wasn't tired of being creative, and I'm not tired of performance. You know, performance is in my blood, but writing poetry becomes a different kind of performance, and it's more of an internal, personal kind of a thing, where, you know, in its initial phases, you're not connecting to an audience, you're just sort of trying to connect to the cosmos, you know, connect to the ether. Yeah. And then if you make those connections and they feel right to you, then you're hoping you can find readers and find an audience for it. But of course, I already had a kind of a built-in safety net, you know, back to the idea of a leap. Fans of mine were going to give it a go. They were going to, you know, read it. And of course, ECW Press probably went, well, he's going to sell some. Like, poetry books don't sell much, right? Yeah. And they go, but, well, we might, you know, we might get our money back for the printing, you know. So I think that, you know, that's part of it too. But like you said in your preamble there about how I'd said to you that becoming myself more. Yeah. I feel like, as I said, always been a writer, and I've done things like write columns for magazines and written newspaper articles from time to time. And, you know, I've done other types of writing. And of course, I sat on a faculty at Humber College for a couple of decades. I wrote course curriculums. You know, I would literally be writing, you know, abstracts of what courses were going to be about. So I've done writing in a lot of different forms. And as the late Danny Christensen, who was the music director at Humber when I was there, said to me once, you know, Rik, you're one of the most pedantic people I've ever met. And when I looked at him in horror, he goes, oh, no, but I meant that in the nicest way possible. I go, oh, okay. Because, you know, I thought pedantic was like an insult.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but it just means, I think, sort of trying to be articulate, trying to get things right. And I think writing, that's kind of what it's about. It's about trying to get things right. So poetry is something where you're still just doing writing, and that comes naturally to me. But the poetry part of it is the part of it where I go, this is where I'm allowed to sort of, I make my own choices about language, and it's not like I wouldn't get out the list of synonyms and try to, you know, that's not one, that's not quite right. Let me see if I can find one that's
thesaurus.
Yeah. You know, yeah. So, you know, there's a website that I use called Rhyme Zone. It has, but you can click, you know, do you want rhymes or do you want synonyms or do you want antonyms or, you know,
wow.
Yeah. Would you like to see 100 ways that it's been used? You go, yes, I would. You know, the first 5 are Dylan. You go, oh, okay. Anyhow, you know, so that's, I would say that, being able to call myself a poet, a published poet, there's a very satisfying, especially at this stage of my life. And it might be even a little more satisfying than when I could call myself rock star or.
Really?
Yeah. I always loved musician.
Yep.
I liked that. And I liked songwriter. But rock stars tended to overshadow those things. You
Absolutely.
know? Poet doesn't really overshadow anything. Poet is just like, you know, there's something still a little romantic to me about that one.
There is, certainly. And, you know, I would say that, you know, when I read Reinvention, I thought a lot about how broadly it was written. And what I mean by that, it wasn't all in a, you know, people think about the word poetry and they think, you know, it might be snooty, it might be rigid, it might be hyper artistic, whatever, right?
Yes.
But yours is very loose, it's very informal. It's not what you would expect.
The thing about poetry though is there were a couple of books that gave me sort of entry in the sense that, I mean, I was thinking about writing poetry and I'd already been scribbling at a few things, and then I got some books for research. So there was a book called The Poem Is You by Stephanie Burt. Yeah. And she teaches in Yale, I think, or Harvard, or, you know, one of the Ivy League schools. And it's a very textbooky kind of thing. But it covers a lot of modern poetry, saying, here's these styles. And there's a school of this, and it arose in the Philadelphia area, and then blah, blah, blah. And then, there was a West Coast thing that started. And so there was this type of poetry called ultra talk, which is really just like conversation. It really reads just like conversation.
Right.
And I went, I really like this.
Yeah.
Like, this is me. Her book was called The Poem Is You. So in other words, whatever you write is who you are, is what you are, you know, that kind of stuff. And so that was a really nice release for me. And there was another book from ECW. There was a guy named Adam Saul. He's a poet that they publish. Yeah, Adam Saul's book is called How a Poem Moves, which for me, that idea of motion and emotion and motion is lotion, and, you know, all of these kinds of things. Because music is something that is in a state of flux, that it flows and that it has a kind of a ephemeral liquid quality to it, then that is not that far away from poetry. Poetry has these same qualities, so this thing about moving your emotions, moving phrases, moving, you know, syllables, like, it's about language. You know, and language is like music. I felt a strong affinity. Adam Saul, I sent him a copy of the book, and I wrote in the forward, I said, you know, thanks a lot, but you are like the guy at Ontario Ministry of, you know, licenses. You gave me license. So if there's anything bad that comes out of this, I'm going to blame you because you gave me the license.
That's a good segue into the next point. So in your book, there are a lot of recurring themes: waves, river, water, the nature theme.
Yeah.
So reflective of that fluidity, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so using these poetic devices just seemed to really come easily to you, I found.
Yeah. I think there's a great deal of poetry throughout the history of it that ties us back to nature. It comes, because that's a constant about being alive, is looking around and going, oh, clouds, oh yeah, water, oh yeah, oh weather, oh oh flowers, oh shit that smells, because as humans, this is what we interact through our senses.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is all around us. For me also, because I tend to be very agnostic,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't subscribe to the idea of a overarching, overseeing, omnipotent kind of, nature of the universe. I see sort of more Mother Nature as the thing that while we're here, that's what we're coping that, and that has a lot more power than we do, So I kind of go, no, it's so that, and I think poetry returns to those things constantly, just because of, hey, water runs downhill, and there's gravity's there, and the planet is always spinning, like these things are always happening, and they happened before I was born, and they're going to be happening after I go.
That's right.
So the context for poetry, the larger kinds of contexts, they tend to be, nature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good start into the book. So what I figured we would do is go through the segments of the book. So it's broken down into, I think it's 5 or 6 segments. And
sure.
Each poem falls into the segments. So the first one is called The Soul, the Spirit, Oh, the Humanity.
Yeah.
And the very first poem in that segment is called The Search is Sacred.
Right.
Now I'm just going to read a little bit of this.
Okay. Before you get into it, I'm just going to let you know.
Yeah.
You got an advance copy.
Yes.
And a couple of the section titles changed.
Oh, what?
Yeah, from when it got for So when they found that, my editor, Michael Holmes, fantastic guy, great guy, a guitar player. So that might have been why he goes, hey, Rik Emmett. Oh, maybe I'll sign him to it. Yeah. So Michael had suggested that some of the things might have been a little over the top, and he went, okay, and so that one he goes, well, what about, can you think of something else? And I went, well, what if we just called it The Humanities? And he went, oh, that's fine. Sure. Okay. So instead of the soul, like making a joke about the guy going, oh, the humanity when the Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I mean, there's little jokes that I'm making throughout the book. That's one where he probably said, let's be a little more serious with the titles. So part 1 is called The Humanities. Okay. So,
and to my point about the snootiness of, perceived snootiness of poetry, this is the inverse of that, right? You're actually having fun with this.
A little bit. Yeah. And the other part of it too is like, when I was in high school, the humanities was, like English and history and geography, and the humanities was going to lead you towards, say, a liberal arts degree. So humanities was, when I taught at college and I was in a music department, that's part of humanities, sociology, psychology, these kinds of things. So I had 2 beta readers. One of them was my cousin, lives out on the West Coast, and one of them is a writer that lives in England, Jane Christmas. And they read my stuff and they went, some of this stuff, Rik, like there's a lot of territory you're covering here.
Yeah.
And maybe some of it I'm not even getting because I'm not getting clues. And I went, okay, but if I organize them into sections and I give the sections a title, then now you'll know what it is that I'm driving at. So those poems in part 1, the humanities, they were sort of about, the soul and some people's religion or anti-religion or, those kinds of things. Yeah. And that's how I grouped those together.
Okay. That was what I was I understood it to be about.
Yeah.
Just the concept of organized religion.
Yeah.
So the first poem is called The Search is Sacred. and I'll read a little bit from this. So nothing is sacred except perhaps rigorous applications of scientific method, the undeniable logic of pure mathematics. So, we're talking about atheism and being agnostic and all that stuff. So what is truly sacred to Rik Emmett?
Well, skip to the bottom and read the last 2 or 3 lines. Anything is sacred that sparks a search for answers.
There it is.
So that's what Rik Emmett believes is sacred, that I should be looking, that I should be seeking, that I should never be satisfied with just sitting and looking at the horizon. I should get up and go and see what's there.
Now, I'd sent something over to you when we were going over this, and I'd made the comment that people need conclusions. Humanity always needs to know the answer.
Yes.
And one thing that I picked up from this segment is that you say, if you have love, you don't need all the answers. You don't need conclusions. And for me, that's kind of where the organized religion comes from, the God concept. If we don't understand something, I find that we need to have a conclusion. We need to know. So there's a God, and God made that.
Yeah.
If we can't explain it.
Yeah, well, I think, human beings, that's what they did.
Yeah.
They invented God so that they could have an answer for all the questions that they can't answer, because it does, and it can give you a feeling of like comfort. This is not TV, so I just wiped my forehead when I... But I think it's an easy way, to me, I think it's the easy way out, and it doesn't satisfy. It never worked for me, But I do understand that there are people that they can find that inside themselves. They're 100% satisfied. Their faith is strong. Mine isn't. It doesn't work for me. I don't feel it. I don't sense God as an evident thing in this life. When I was young, when I was little, I did. A large chunk of Reinvention is its memoir. It's literally my life story, kind of, being told in poems. So, there's a poem in there about when my grandfather died.
Yes.
11/11/11/12, and telling his story. But it's also, his story is partly my story of when he died, and I went, wow, he's gone forever. He's never coming back. He's, and he's beyond consciousness.
Yeah.
So that was the first time where I went in my life, whoa, when you're beyond consciousness, you don't exist anymore. You're gone. And so that led me to sort of the metaphysical kinds of questions of, can my consciousness survive the death of my brain?
Right.
I'm going, no, it doesn't. I'm afraid not. Once our brain's gone, we're gone.
That's right.
And we're gone from this plane. I'm sorry, I can't find a faith that will tell me there's another plane. There isn't another plane. This is it. This is what we got. That part of the humanities to me is bringing us. It doesn't take me away like up into divinities. That doesn't work for me. Humanity is just humanity.
And that segment segues into life and death. And that theme continues. There is a poem called Have a Good Day in that segment. And it's kind of I said to you, it's kind of a no bullshit approach to humanity. We're born, we age, and we die.
Yep.
And there's a line from that poem that goes, you get to return to the oblivion from whence you emerged. It's the same thinking, right? Without your brain to recognize that whether or not you have a soul, if your brain is gone, it's all gone.
The big stumbling block for me, and it's in the poems, and it'll be in poems that I keep writing, it's about ego.
Yeah.
And I think religion, to a great extent, it's about ego. It's about people going, well, wait a sec. No, me, I, me, mine. I don't want to not exist anymore. Where can I still be me? Well, heaven. I can go to a heaven, and I'm going to be the best me I'll ever have been. It'll be the best me that I could ever want. And it's that, to me, this is all about ego. And you go, No, I'm afraid that's not how it works. I think you should give your absolute best effort to being the best you can be here now. Seek that, go for that. But why are you waiting? Like, you wait till after you die. Honestly, I can't imagine when you see horrible, terrible things in life, planes crashing into 9/11 and people jumping out windows, and you see just this, a tsunami hits and piles of bodies outside of concentration camps. And you go, okay, how are we much different than from ants on an anthill?
Right.
We're not. The difference, of course, is that we have this incredible gift of self-recognition and consciousness, and we can ask ourselves big questions, which is what poems do.
Right.
It's like, what are the really big questions? Well, where was I before I was born, and where do I go after I die? And I is in all of those phrases and sentences, and it's like, yeah. And one of the challenges that I faced writing the book, and I keep writing. I'm working on a second book of stuff, and I go, can I get the first person out of this? Can I get rid of I as a pronoun? And I realized, oh man, it's really, really hard for me. Because a lot of my career has been about me, this self-aggrandizement, this rock star kind of. And then it's like people come along and they're sycophantic and they're going, so what can I do for you, Rik? Like, what do you need? Can we get you a cup of tea? Can we carry your amp for you? Like all of these things, and then you go, yeah, well, maybe that's not what good writing should be about. If, in the end, once I'm dead and gone, long gone, what will it matter? But then, of course, you come back to the thing of, well, yeah, but you're creating this record, this written record of what was going on inside your stupid, giant, fat head. You know what I mean? So you go, I guess that I can never extract the first person out of it. It's subjective. No matter how I try to couch the language, the subjective thing is always in there. So then this brings me back to the whole ultra talk thing. And there's other forms of modern poetry where they go, why are you worrying about that? Let's just let it flow and just get it out onto the paper. And then let's see what we got. That lava flow, I think, is a kind of an important part of poetry writing too, that you have to try to find that place where it's not even like you're channeling just yourself. You're channeling the way your self perceives the flow of life.
Right.
And that flow of life, that again, we're back to the thing of motion. Like, if I can find that, like, I think some of the best things that I wrote were things where I wasn't worrying about language so much, and I wasn't worried, like, they were just like the poem Remembering Russell, which is kind of at the heart of the book, really. The eulogy that I could never deliver, in real life, because I would have never got through it.
Right.
I would have been choked up and gasping for air after 3 or 4 lines, but that just pretty much flowed out of me. I mean, obviously I rewrite and I clean things up and stuff, but that one was just not stream of consciousness, but that was lava flow,
Unfiltered.
Yeah.
That's where the really kind of beautiful stuff is.
Yeah. And as a musician, of course, you experience that sometimes when you're improvising and you're blowing in a solo and you're not even on this plane anymore. You've kind of transcended it, and you're in this place where you're doing something where you go, yeah. And I could see how some people may go, yeah, that's a gift from God. Yeah. Or you're communing with the muses, or whatever. They give it some sort of spiritual, divine kind of. And I go, well, certainly it feels that way. Like the part of my brain, the lobes of my brain that are making that happen, they go, yeah, that's it. An angel was talking to me. That's it. Yeah.
In that same segment, you provided a tribute to Gord Downie, which I thought was really cool, called Game Changer. Where did I was surprised to see that. Where did that come from?
I did a show once where I opened for The Hip, and I'd never seen them. So I, stuck around and went out and watched. And Gord Downie is just this, wow, he was like a force of nature. He was so charismatic. And I just could not take my eyes off him. And I was going, man, this is one of the best frontmen for a band I've ever seen, because he's so unique and he's so, there's a Mick Jagger kind of quality to what he does, but it's not Mick Jagger. It's Gord, and it's Gord being Gord in Gord's way, so that made me a fan of his. I was never a huge fan of the band necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but I became a huge fan of him. So then I was playing a gig out in Saskatchewan, in Regina, on the day that they played their final show in Kingston, which was televised. And so I was down I'd already played my set, come back in the hotel. So it was kind of dinner time-ish, I think, for us, which would be, the time difference between Kingston and they're playing 8:00 at night or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was on the big screens in the bar.
Oh.
And a lot of the musicians, it was one of these, old rock day, so there were bands from the 80s kind of, so yeah. I think Carol Pope had played on that show, and, it was just Canadian bands from that era.
Mm.
And, we're just having drinks and it was on the big screen, and I started watching, and then I was transfixed. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. This guy was, dying of cancer, and yet he was putting on this rock show.
Yeah.
Like screaming and howling in the face of death, and just, and then acting like the court jester and doing a soft shoe. And I was going, holy shit, like that just, to me, it redefined what a rock musician on stage could be, should be. So, I had a few notes in my notebook that night, and I knew that eventually I was going to, pay tribute to him in some way, shape, or form. So, I wrote that just thinking about what he'd done, the path that he'd walked, and, feeling a little humbled. Yeah. So I hope the humility comes through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll get to a little bit more of that later on. In this same segment, one of my favorite and most stirring passages is Reinvention is 4 stanzas.
Oh yeah.
It's this brilliant kind of seasons metaphor for the life cycle. So going through spring being the birth and then winter being the death. And the ending of this is absolutely jarring, the way that this ends. And as a writer myself, I thought you nailed it, because you want to reach out from the book and grab people by the shirt. And you did that with this. So I don't want to spoil it. Or should I read this? I don't know. I don't even know if I read this, if it'll come across. You have to read it yourself.
No, thing is, one of the things that I'm really enjoying about this is to get you to hear you read them, and then I go, so in his head, that's how it, because I did an audiobook for this. I had to read my own stuff, and it's a bitch. To kind of capture the tone, the way, and, just the right inflection and the right phrasing and the right rhythm and all of that. Yeah. It's like, it was hard. It was really hard work to do it. But then I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if you could get Christopher Plummer to read your poems? So I'm interested to hear you read it. So please do. Come on.
You put me on the spot.
Yeah, damn straight.
It's almost like the needle coming off a record.
That's what it's like. Yes.
It's abrupt.
Yeah. So try that.
It makes you go, okay.
And then you're going to do it and we go, can we try that again?
Can we do that one more time?
Okay, go now. Serious now. Okay.
For the turning of the wheel, the spin around the sun, orbits in the circles, in the circles, in the circles, in the...
And the quiet at the end is very important.
That's the thing, because you're waiting and it's not coming.
Yes.
And it's like, it's over.
Yeah. And so that's my imagining of maybe that's what it's like. That, although, my dad recently passed away, and he'd been going through dementia issues, towards the end. He was 92. He almost made it to 93. Mm-hmm. He only had a month to go.
Yeah.
But he literally got to the point where if I said, Dad, do you know how old you are? He would say, 100. Like he had no idea anymore. There were things that were already gone. Little by little, I think he got to the point where it's not him anymore. That conscious mind is kind of gone. So I just think that death is just this cessation of consciousness. I tried to find a way to put it into words and make it so. And, you're quite right that it's kind of like, the needle is on the record and you push the little bar and it's like, wait, it stopped,
Right.
And so I imagine that's kind of what it's like. It's just like the switch will go and that's it.
But it's so brilliant because you try to find that word that will just kind of tie everything up so nicely, but you go beyond that. It doesn't have to be a word. That's the best part of this.
And one of the lovely things about poetry that I discovered writing was that it's not just a question of the words. It's a question of how do you position them on the page? Do you indent? Are you using a capital at the beginning of the line, or is it, lowercase? Punctuation, do you use punctuation and a space? Because you can if you like, like all of these things can affect the flow of it, the rhythm of it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not just a question of, say, vocabulary where I go, like I tend to be, and here's a tendency of mine. Like, let's say I've used the word, soaring. And so we're going through the phrases, and then I've used the soaring so then 2 verses later, I use the same word again. And then I go, I already used that word in this poem. I don't want to use it twice. I need to find a synonym for soaring, so I'll go searching, to try and find something. Oh, and sometimes I'll go, no, I like it here in the second place better than, because I like this idea. So I scratch it out and I move things around, and it becomes more like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Where does the piece fit better in order to create the picture, Yeah. And that songwriting was very much the same for me, lyric writing, but poetry has even more parameters where you can play. Like if I want to stop a phrase, so there's words missing, but that's because that communicates the idea better, that's what I did. I went, just stop. Just stop right in the middle of the sentence. Stop.
It's perfect. Like it really is. I read that and went, oh, and just paused for a minute. It was just so great.
Thanks. Although, can I claim originality for that? I'm not sure that I'm sure.
Really?
I'm sure that trick's been used, hundreds of thousands of times by hundreds of thousands of poets.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Well,
yeah.
Great.
All right. Born to Pay is next, and it's a wistful reckoning.
It does. It has some melancholy in it. Yeah, there's no question.
Now the good news is it also exists as a song.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So should we?
Do you want me to? Shall I try an attempt a version of it?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm sort of in behind my mic stand here. I gotta go grab my guitar.
All right.
So it was a weird couple of weeks for me. My son got married in Niagara Falls, outdoor wedding, and then a big reception. And I had to sing a Queen song, "You're My Best Friend," for their first dance.
Oh, wow.
So that's now all 4 of my kids, all their weddings. I got to
cool.
sing at their weddings. Yeah. But it was like I was working on this because that tune is like, it's got this ga-ding, gang, 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 ga-ding. It's a Wurlitzer electric piano. But they wanted something that was more like a Michael Bublé swung version of just voice and guitar. So I was working that up while I was, working on other stuff and doing all these interviews for the poetry.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, yeah. All right.
All right.
I don't want this to be too loud. Can you hear that all right in this mic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There's an old man in the mirror, gaining on me fast. His claim upon the future overtakes our glorious past. And when it's coming down to him or me, it'll all work out okay, 'cause we both know the price that we were born to pay. When I was just a boy, full of promise, green and tender, I took so much for granted, no accounting for surrender. But now the changes come so fast, at the speed of light they say, now that's the price every child is born to pay. Oh, devil at each crossroad, angel in my ear, should I turn to face the music, learn the language that I hear? Should I wager all and let it ride, or fold this hand I hold and walk away? Yeah. There's a sobering reflection I've grown to recognize, the telltale signs of showbiz lines from a master of disguise. But it looks like he's still game, with another round to play. He'll ante up the price he's born to pay. He knows I'm good to cough the damage each and every day, 'cause we both know the price that we were born to pay. Yeah, we both know that we were born to pay. I go.
Well done, sir. Very nice. So let's finish out this segment, and then maybe we'll do part 2 after that. What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah. So definitions, perspectives, and choices is another poem in this life and death segment. And I'm going to read a little bit from this one. So mortality is the thing that makes sense to me. And when your senses are done, you are done. So we talked about this already. So you came to this realization, around the time of the death of your grandfather. Anything else to add?
Well, I mean, mortality. Yeah. Do I have anything to add? In my life, I've had surgery 4 times where I've been knocked out. I have zero feeling or understanding of where I went once the drugs hit my system. I was gone.
It's like magic.
Yeah, and it's your brain. My brain is gone. And like I've had, knees not replaced, but knee surgeries, replacement of ligaments. I've had a hernia surgery, and my wife just recently had both of her hips done.
Wow.
And when doctors describe what they do to your body when they're replacing your hip, oh my God.
Oh.
Like when they put you out, it's a good thing you're out because they break your bones.
Do they
and
really?
Sideways. They're trying to break your bone out of your hip.
Oh,
so
good
it's
Lord.
horrid.
Ugh.
It's crazy bad. So she wakes up from the anesthetic. She's a little nauseous and stuff. And, it's like there's no memory. Like you don't float above the table or any of that stuff. Like I feel like the truth of the matter is that our ability to reason about anything, our ability to experience things, it's related to the fact that we're alive and that our brains are alive. And as soon as you can shut off parts of your brain, you're not alive anymore. And you're not going to be alive in some heaven somewhere. To me, that's just this incredibly egotistical kind of thing that people are imagining. No, I'm not gone. And then the other thing about loved ones is like, they're still, still here. Like I can sense that they're with us.
Yeah.
And I go, well, if you're saying that you sense them, you feel them inside and you're carrying something around of them inside you, and that's, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
And I'll buy the fact that, let's say, our dear departed loved ones,
Yeah.
you and I are both carrying some of that around inside us.
Yes.
The sorrow that we had for losing them, the great memories of who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And is there some kind of energy, some kind of psychic energy that might exist between us and in the sense of our loss, the depth of our loss? I'm agnostic in that sense. It may well be that there are things of energy, psychic energies, but that's because we're alive and we can make these psychic energies happen. If somebody's saying to me, oh, I can see your aura and your aura is tremendous, I go, yeah, okay, well, it's possible. Because I'm a living thing. And so there may be, in the same way that there's pheromones that I can't smell, there may be a light aura that's emanating from me that, the spectrum of my eyeballs, I don't see. I mean, I just got my cataracts done. So, it's possible that I'm seeing color spectrum because I was losing a great deal of it before. But anyways, I mean, I don't buy the fact that there's angels and there's spirits and there's a heaven and there's it just doesn't work for me, so.
For all that stuff, I mean, I would like to, but it's like, it's not there. Nobody has any evidence of it being there. And I think back to, the experience that I went through, and we'll get into that later. But right after I lost my wife, at that very point, I remember for about 5 minutes truly understanding organized religion, for the reason that that person that you've been with for that long isn't there. But it's not that she's just not there. She's not over there either. She's not in Japan either. She's just not, she doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
And that's very, very hard to come to grips with as a human being.
Totally. And I mean, my wife and I went on a riverboat cruise, Danube and a lot of that is like day to day. You can just go see more cathedrals.
Yeah.
They're all over the place, and castles because, the nobility, the kings and the queens, well, they were God's representative on earth. And so there was something, there was religion tied into that. Yeah. And the amount of money and the amount of energy that went into this. And there's a couple of lines in the book where I say, cathedrals are not evidence of God.
Right.
They're evidence of man's belief in a God. And we can believe almost anything and believe in it so strong that now our will can make things happen where we go, see, that's evidence of God. You go, that's evidence of your willpower. That's evidence of your belief.
That's right.
That's not evidence. That's evidence.
Right.
You see all of these things and you think all these cathedrals and castles, and I go, oh my God, so much human blood, sweat, and tears went into paying homage on this level, and it's like, to what end? What if we'd instead tried to be solving, world hunger? And what if we were, the amount of energy that now and money that goes to religion so that religion can propagate itself? Mm-hmm. What if it went to trying to find a cure for cancer? Because we could sure use that, you know. But then we live in a world where right now, there's people that they demonstrate because they're anti-vaxxers and they don't believe in science. And I just go, oh my God, the Taliban has come back into power.
Yeah.
And the morning paper was talking about how they're going to reinstitute the whole idea of going to chop off people's hands. They're probably going to have public executions again, but for sure, they're going to go back to chopping off people's hands. And you go, oh my God, it's like the world keeps insisting on going back to the 7th century. And why? Because they say, because God told us. The Quran says we have to do this. So, and you go, oh man, are you sure that's not just your interpretation of the Quran and you might be getting it wrong? No, this is God's word. And we have to do what God says. And you go, okay, you are taking us back to the Stone Age. This is horrifying and terrifying. And you people over there that are tossing gravel at the prime minister, you're our version of those Quran guys. You're being like Stone Age. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. And, I like to believe that I'm open-minded, that I will accept other people. But the whole thing of writing the poetry, I realize I'm riding this teeter-totter between how much I love human beings and I care about them, and I want to try and write things to make the world a better place and make me a better person. And but then the teeter-totter swings the other way, and I go, you ignorant, you terrible. I can't. You're ruining the world. You're ruining life for the rest of everybody, and you think you're righteous. You think that you're doing that and you're making the world a better place. And you go, so poetry was a kind of a thing where I was able to go, I'm going to try and deal with this. I'm going to try and cope with this, because I'm not just, you and I are reviewing the stuff and you talk about things and I go, well, yeah, I'm thinking about death, and I'm over here. I was thinking about death again. And then over here, also we were thinking about death. It's not just that. I mean, I'm thinking about life too. And I'm thinking about like having a sense of humor. And there's lots of things that poetry can do, and it can be. At the bottom of it for me, emotionally, it was also about, man, I got some anger issues. Like I got some stuff that just really, I got to get it out somehow. And so poetry was at least giving me an opportunity to be able to say, you morons, you horrible, terrible people. Yeah. So that was at least it was an outlet for me. Yeah.
The last poem in this segment, we finish on a positive note. Even out of the negative, you can choose the positive. So it's in the choosing.
Yes. Yeah. Options, and we've always got them, and can I choose? And this was a hard thing for me in my own life, because I had anger that I wanted to hold on to, and I did not want to let it go. I did not want to forgive. I certainly was never going to forget. I'm wired so that that's never going to happen. But I didn't want to forgive either, because I wanted to hold on to my anger. And I was thinking, that's not right. That's terrible. That's horrible. I have to learn to let go of those things. I have to learn to be a better person. And it wasn't easy.
No, it's not.
It wasn't easy for me to become a better person. Yeah.
It's not. I've said before, I've said this to Amy, nobody wins the war of bitterness. It hurts you more than, I'm the same way. I get angry about things and I get very vengeful, but at the end of the day, it hurts you just as much.
I know, exactly right. Yeah. We only get one kick at this can, we really do. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Are you going to spend it being angry and being vengeful is a good word. Yeah. Like, although, it's weird how we're wired. Like, think about kids and comic books.
Yep.
And how the whole idea of a superhero is that, well, bad guy's going to get his ass kicked. Like that's what's going to, kids are going to go, damn, straight up, and waiting for that.
That's right.
I couldn't wait till when a bad guy gets his comeuppance.
Yeah.
Like, my wife and I were watching a TV show the other day, and there's this investigative journalist, and he's really starting to become an asshole that you really just hate. At one point, she just leans over to me and she says, well, we can't wait to see him get it in the third reel. Yeah, it's true. It's like, we are wired.
Oh yeah.
That's what happens. Like there's the thing where Jerry Seinfeld talks about sports teams.
Yeah.
And he goes, come on, in the end, really, you're just cheering for laundry. Which is a great line, right? because it's kind of true. They're mercenaries and they move around and they, but they're gonna wear. And so we watch the stuff go down and they get angry at each other and we're getting angry too and we want revenge. We must get revenge. It's like I guess it was gladiators in the Colosseum. It was like it's blood sport and we're not just human, we're animal. There's this animal thing about the way we're wired. Yeah. And so we do have the flight or fight. And the fight is a big part of, said the guy that wrote Fight the Good Fight. Oh, dear.
We're human animals. There's no question.
Yeah. All right. Are we taking a break?
We are. That's
Another cup of tea or something, and then we'll get back at this.
And then we'll tackle the next segment, which is there's politics in everything. We need a break before we tackle that one.
Okay, good.
All right.
I need to pee desperately. And I didn't even start drinking the water yet.
Uh-oh. All right, that concludes part 1 of our chat. Join us next week for the conclusion of our discussion about Rik's new book of poetry, Reinvention. Get out there and get your copy. All right, this has been No Sleep Till Sudbury with Brent Jensen and my very special guest, Mr. Rik Emmett. Till next time, folks, take good care.
Brent Jensen is the best-selling author of No Sleep Till Sudbury, Leftover People, and All My Favorite People Are Broken. All titles available in stores and on Amazon worldwide.